Hi all, welcome back or welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be painting up Commander Luke Skywalker from the Star Wars Legion starter set. He is one of the first commanders that you'll get for the game if you start with one of the base set boxes. Pretty much it's either going to be Luke, Darth Vader, General Grievous, or Obi-Wan Kenobi. I will be doing a paint tutorial for Obi-Wan Kenobi coming up soon with Darth Vader and General Grievous. I don't really think you really need to have a tutorial per se. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. So one of them is pretty much all black, and the other one is pretty much painted the exact same as a droid. We're going to go through it. Now, this Luke is actually based off the Empire Strikes Back. We're going to be painting him the same as you'd see in the movie today. I guess you'd call it like painting the same as the box art. This is your model. You can technically paint him however you like. If you want him to be bright red, go for it. Let's begin and get straight into it. Now, you should first prime your models after you've put them together and glued them. Now, you can also just paint them without primer, but you're going to have a much worse time if you decide to do that. Okay, so now you've primed your model. I'm going to be basing all the colors for this video off Citadel paints. If you don't have that, just pick something that looks pretty similar, I suppose. So starting off with Screaming Skull, which is like a almost bone color, we're going to give a base paint onto his jumpsuit. Now the jumpsuit is light brown, so just something along that. We're going to be using a light green like Ogren camo, and also going to be using the XV88 or a very light yellowish brown for the hair. We'll have the boots, the hair, and the jumpsuit done now, so it should start to be taking shape. Okay, so we're going to be putting a layer of just skin tone on his face and hands, and once that's done, following that we'll be using some washes. So you want to be using a black wash like a Nuln oil on the whole of the body, and for the head you want to be using a brown wash. So now that's done, we're going to be using half XV88 and half Wayland Sunset, so half a lighter brown and half of a yellow to highlight the hair strands on his head. Now remember, Luke is more of a dirty blonde, so he's not a completely like yellow hair is what I'm trying to say. So just as long as it's kind of got a bit of a brownish blondiness to it, you're going to be going well. Okay, so we're going to be putting a layer of just skin tone on his face and hands, and after that we're going to also be layering that up to kind of make it pop a little bit. Going to bring that shade up on the face. So next I decided to shade the lip a little bit and bring the hair color up a little bit further. As you can see, my face model isn't really going too well, so I'm going to just kind of touch it up a bit here and there. Just remember, with painting as well, it is an additive process, so don't worry too much if it looks a bit rough around the edges, because that's kind of the whole idea. We're going to continue to keep adding paint onto it and bringing that whole thing up. Okay, so now you got all your blocked in colors. You also got some shading around each area. We're going to be adding some brown onto his belt. I use Blood Reaver Flesh myself, and pretty much just goes all around his waist and also over his gun holster on his right leg. Now we're going to be highlighting the belt with some kind of grayish paints. Now I like to use metallic paints. I know a lot of painters don't like using that. As a beginner, I would definitely recommend just using them. I think they're really good. So just using something like Lead Belcher, which is a dark grayish metallic paint. You just want to highlight all the little dots around his belt buckle, the gun, and also that lightsaber hilt. Okay, so now we're going to actually take a short break and have a look at Luke Skywalker's unit card. We're also going to talk about some ways that you can use Luke Skywalker in your army. Let's begin. So to start off with, Luke Skywalker, Hero of the Rebellion. He is actually a 150 point commander. He had 10 points taken off in the latest rules change, which is on the Atomic Mass Games website. So he has Jump 1, which is pretty standard across most Jedi units, just meaning that when you make a move, you can also ignore terrain at height 1 or lower. He has the Great Ability Charge, which means that you can perform a free attack action after you move. He has Deflect, which is when you spend a dodge token, you gain surge equals defense. If it's a ranged attack, the attacker suffers 1 wound for each surge result rolled. So pretty much he's deflecting the bullet back at them. And he also has immune to pierce, which most Jedi and lightsaber users do have. He also is boasting a surge to crit, and he has 2 movement. Another important thing with Luke is he actually has his blaster pistol, He's not completely devoted to being a Jedi at this point, and he is pretty much repping the DL-44 blaster pistol, which has a pretty good range of 1 to 2 with 2 red dice, which is great, and PS2. And he also has Anakin's lightsaber, which has Impact 2, PS2, and 6 black dice, which is really good. Now, Luke also has 2 Force upgrades and 1 gear upgrade that we're going to get into a bit later on. We're going to go to his command cards now, and I'm going to give you a brief breakdown on if you should use them or not, and what you can pretty much get out of them. We will start with the 3-pip Return of the Jedi. When Luke Skywalker is issued an order, he gains 1 dodge token. When Luke Skywalker activates, each friendly trooper unit at range 1 to 3 of him may remove 1 suppression. I would say that this card is pretty good. The dodge token activates Luke's deflect for the current turn, which means that you don't have to worry about getting that done. So it's pretty good. However, dodge token will leave at the end of this turn, so it's only a real 1-turn thing. Why I say this card is actually only pretty good is that it's a 3-pip. You're only taking a couple suppressions off other units, and you're getting a dodge token. It really isn't that flashy. Luke is pretty much the first commander besides Darth Vader, so if you are just using what you have out of the core box, for sure bring this. However, I would say that if you brought any other commanders or you have any other options of command cards, you might want to leave this one. So Luke's 2-pip is My Ally is the Force. So when a friendly trooper unit is issued an order, it gains 1 dodge token, and you can activate 2 troopers. Now, I would say that this card is actually pretty average. It's got great card art and good synergy with the rebel troopers themselves, because you give them the dodge and they have nimble 1. However, a bit like the other card, I would only bring this if you are only using what comes in the starter set. There is so many other more flashy and more exciting command cards out there than this one. Luke Skywalker's last command card, his 1-pip Son of Skywalker, is great. After Luke Skywalker performs his first attack, he may perform an additional attack. This is very powerful. You can actually take advantage of Luke's charge ability, so that when you move, you can attack, and then for his second option, you can attack again. And because you've played this card, you can actually attack a 3rd time. You can get 3 attacks on just 1 single activation, which means that pretty much anything in your way, any unit will be defeated. You get to kind of tap into that little bit of dark side that Luke has a little bit of affinity for, and you can pretty much smite any foes in your way. The only thing is, if you get unlucky rolls, you're going to look like a bit of a fool. This is a great card. I would absolutely bring this with any Luke Skywalker. Now, if you're a bit savvy with the game, you might be saying, but wait, there's actually 3 more command cards that Luke can bring. This is absolutely correct. It is part of the Luke operative set. Now, that is an extra expansion, and we'll actually be going through those cards in that expansion. So I'm going to pretty much take it that if you have Luke, you're pretty much going from the core box, and that's why we're only going to be looking at these cards here. Okay, so I'd actually say that for his upgrades, being the 2 Force slots and the 1 gear slot, that if you only have Luke, bring whatever you like. Just pretty much put a gear and 2 Force upgrades on him, whatever you prefer. However, if you're running any other commander, and if you're running an actual 800-point army, I would actually just bring this Luke stock standard without any upgrades. He does have a good melee and a good ranged option, but I don't think anything else will actually improve him very much. I think you'll find that with most lightsaber users, the biggest downfall is that they don't have much ranged options, so you might want to bring saber throw. However, with Luke, I wouldn't even really recommend that. You get the 2 impact with his blaster pistol. You're getting 2 red dice and PS2, which is great. You also got a surge to crit, so more likely than not, you're going to get some good damage in here and there. I would actually go and say that you should pretty much be running him stock. Now, if you did want an actual recommendation, I would just bring targeting scopes. It's 4 points, not too expensive, and it gives Luke precise 1. So for his attack, he can re-roll an additional die if he decides to spend an aim token. Now that means you probably will have to aim and then shoot, or get an aim token from somebody else. Like I said, I don't think that's necessary. Just a quick note, I forgot to mention that this Luke Skywalker Commander does not have Master of the Force. So this means that you would actually need to use one of your precious 2 actions to refresh to bring back any Force upgrade that you have. Master of the Force gives you a free refresh after your round is done. Because he doesn't have that, Force cards are now even worse. So as I just said, I would still run this guy with no upgrades, maybe besides targeting scopes. Great, so now we've had a brief overlook of how Luke plays and what you might want to use him for. Let's get back into the painting. Now we're going to be using Screaming Skull again, which was our base color, just on the jumpsuit again to bring up all those little ripples and pockets to kind of make it pop a little bit. You don't have to worry too much on all the area that's underneath the arms, as those would naturally be hidden by shade anyway. So just around the edges, the back, his butt, and his legs especially. So personally, I wasn't too happy with where the face and the hair was, so I just hit it with Reichland Flesh Shade Skin, and also I just kind of brought the hair a little bit more to what I was trying to say before, with more of that dirty blonde type look. Now this part's going to be fun, and it's going to kind of bring the whole thing together, and that's going to be the lightsaber. So first of all, you want to put a base coat of white all over the lightsaber itself, not including the hilt, and I just added some watered down Baharoth blue, and I just kept layering it over and over again to kind of bring that blue up very slightly, and have the top of it being a little bit more whiter and the bottom of it being a bit more darker. That way it looks like it's originating from the hilt itself, and that way it's not all just one complete block. Okay, so we're nearly done. What we're going to do next is we're just going to do some touch-ups. If you're not too happy, maybe when you're painting some of the inner sections of the model, it touched other parts, or etc, etc. So just going back with all the colors that we used before, we're just going to be touching up bits here and there to make it look a bit more legible. And this is probably going to be the hardest part of the model. And if you're not fully comfortable with this, you don't have to do it, just like everything else in this video. However, I definitely recommend doing it, as it's going to make your model pop at the end, and that is going to be whiting the eyes. So just getting the smallest, sharpest brush at the tip that you have, I would just dip it in a little bit of white and just quickly and carefully just dotting the eyes. Remember, you just want to make sure it's a very small dot. Anything that goes around the ridges of the eyebrows, etc., you can always just get rid of that with some extra flesh shade, and that should be fine. Okay, so now that everything's done, he should have completely white eyes. You should have brought the face shades back up to the point where you're happy with it. So what you need to do now is just dot the eyes. So I just use a 0.3 with a felt tip point, and I just dot at around the middle of both. You just want to make sure they both kind of look in the same directions, otherwise it's going to look a bit bizarre. Okay, so that the actual whole body is done, I thought that I just wanted to put him on a neutral color base, so I just used some Imperium Grey, just normal grey paint on the bottom of the base there, and I just went around and make sure that the rim of the base was black, because I personally find that to be more appealing for the eye. If you wanted to do it a different color, go ahead. If you're going to get a lot of different armies, etc, and you wanted to make sure that they're easy to differentiate between each other, you can go ahead and color it a different color. I know that the bases are actually different colors to start out with for each faction anyway. However, I think it just looks better black. So now your Luke Skywalker, hero of the rebellion, is all painted. We've gone through all his command cards, his unit card itself, his weapons, his abilities. Should you use him? I'm going to say yeah. Considering that he comes in the core box, you might not have any other choice. I think Luke is a little bit outdated compared to a lot of the stuff we have now. However, I still think he's pretty good. If you like Luke Skywalker, you can't really go wrong with him. And if you do decide to buy the operative expansion, you can run those 3 other command cards as well that we'll go into in a later video. But for the Rebels, being that you have so many named characters, I would say that maybe you'd actually want to look at someone else down the line. However, if Luke's your favorite, that's great. You've already got him and he goes well. Now, the next video I have coming up is going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi Commander that comes in the other core set. I decided that we should start with 4 overviews of the commanders that come in the core boxes, because that way you know who you have, what you can use them for, and why you should use them. I'd like to thank you again for watching the video. If you got this far and you enjoyed, please give the video a like. Comment down below what you think of Luke Commander, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.